Avery, welcome! The most beautiful woman Avery had ever seen smiled down at her. She wore a long satin dress with a high neck and cones of lace at the cuffs, flame red hair tumbling over her shoulders. She seemed so pleased to see them that Avery instantly felt herself relax. Edgar loitered at her elbow, clutching at his waistcoat and wringing his many hands. "But Miss Cassandra, what will Mab say?" "Don't worry, Edgar," the woman said sweetly. "I'll explain." Avery and Lo trotted to keep up with the woman as she led them away from Edgar and the foyer. They peered around curiously at the silent library as they followed. "I can see you don't recognize me, Avery," said the woman, smiling back at them. "No, I'm sorry," Avery replied. "Have we met?" "I'm Cassandra. I made a promise to look after you when you were a baby. Myself and the others, of course. How are Bob and Cindy?" "They're well. Wait, how do you know Bob and Cindy? Did you conjure them?" Cassandra laughed as she guided them towards a grand staircase. It was a wonderful, tinkly laugh, and Avery thought she had never heard such a nice sound before. "Ah, you've rumbled them, have you? Kerrid will be disappointed. I think they were her creation." "What do you mean, creation?" asked Lo, brow furrowed. "They're magic," explained Avery. "Magic?" spluttered Lo. Avery shrugged. "Right, more secrets," he sighed. "Though that explains why Cindy's baking always tastes so good." Cassandra laughed again, pushing open a pair of double doors and gliding into an enormous, dimly lit room stacked row upon row full of bookshelves. "This is where the bulk of the library's collection is, but there's lots more archived in vaults beneath the building too," she explained, ushering them on towards a flickering light coming from a tall, wide cupboard set in the furthest wall. The doors of the cupboard were propped open by tottering piles of books. "So many books," Lo said in wonder, staring around the library with his mouth open. He reached out to grab one, but Avery batted his hand away. She knew from experience that if she let Lo loose in a library, they might not find him for days. "Oh yes, and there are some wonderful maps," said Cassandra. "For the last 300 years, they've been collecting every book ever published." She paused. "It's so nice to be back in Edinburgh. I was born here, you know, and my father had land here. But that was a long time ago." Cassandra was cut off by a loud voice roaring across the silent library. "Avery!" This was followed by the pounding of feet so huge that the floor bounced with each step. "Rolling cauldrons!" cried Cassandra. "It's Glurt! Take cover!" Glurt was a troll and was as wide and as tall as the front end of a double-decker bus. As he approached at speed, his tiny eyes were focused only on Avery, and his thick arms were spread wide in joyful anticipation. "Slow down!" yelled Avery, waving her hands in front of her. But the troll had built up too much momentum. As he tried to slow, he stepped on a nearby book trolley, which acted like an awkward roller skate, careering towards them, carrying Glurt's colossal bulk. "Run!" shouted Cassandra. If the trolley brake hadn't stuck fast at just that moment, they would almost certainly have been flattened. As it was, Glurt flew through the air, slid along the shiny library floor on his large belly, and came to a stop only millimeters from their fleeing heels. "Glurt, you must be more careful," scolded Cassandra. "What have we told you about running indoors?" "Avery!" was all Glurt could say as he jumped up and hugged her, happily swinging her from side to side. Avery found herself squeezed against the troll's rock-like chest. He smelled like overripe bananas and old socks. Lo tapped one of Glurt's enormous ankles. Mr. Glurt, sir, could you put her down now, please? I don't think she can breathe." Glurt paid no attention, hoisting Avery onto his shoulder and marching off towards an open cupboard, crooning, "Glurt's so happy to see Avery." "Come along, we'd better follow them." Cassandra picked up her skirts and took Lo's hand as they hurried after the retreating troll.